Hello everyone, welcome to Hawaii, welcome to Pro Tour Kaladesh. It's time to invent your tomorrow. Rich Hagon alongside Pro Tour historian Brian David-Marshall here to mark your card for all the action over the next 3 days. BDM, what is coming up here at the home of Magic the Gathering?
Well, you know what? I feel like we have no idea what's coming up because Kaladesh has so many amazing new toys to play with. And we're going to see this new draft format, which just got explored a little bit last weekend in London and Atlanta. That's going to be our day one. First 3 rounds, we're going to see draft of Kaladesh, then 5 rounds of standard, and this new format. And who knows what's going to happen, what decks, whether people are going to be bringing low to the ground aggro decks or, you know, crazy combo decks.
What about Saturday?
Saturday is the same format. Everyone who gets 4 and 4 better on day 1 will get to come back on day 2. And so it's going to be 3 rounds of Kaladesh draft, followed by 5 rounds more of standard. And then that's going to cut to our top 8 on Sunday, but it's a little different this Sunday than it has been at previous Sundays on the Pro Tour.
For sure. So what we're going to do is the top 2 seeds advance all the way to the semi-finals. You won't see them until after lunch. Seeds 5 through 8 play against each other, 5v8, 6v7. The 2 winners of stage 1 of our quarterfinals advance to face seed 3 and seed 4. Their reward for doing well on Saturday is to come back in stage 2. So 5, for example, will play 3, and 7, for example, will play 4. The winners of that stage 2 in the quarterfinals, they get to play the happy number 1 and number 2 seed who were already in the semi-finals by virtue of their great performance on Saturday. Then you have 2 semi-finals, a final. You'll see all the action on Sunday. But BDM, I think the key takeaway is that on Saturday, in rounds 15 and 16, when you might put your feet up and go, I'm in the top 8, thanks so much, now you're playing for that 1 and 2 seed.
Round 16 is essentially our quarterfinals now.
Right, sure, that's one way of looking at it, yeah.
Right, because people are playing to not have to play, you know, so many more rounds on Sunday.
Yeah, so 1 and 2, they need to win 2 matches on Sunday. 3 and 4 need to win 3 matches on Sunday. And 5, 6, 7, and 8, 4 wins on Sunday makes you a Pro Tour champion. But how are we going to find out who's in the top 8? Well, it's cards, of course it is, and we've got some amazing cards in Kaladesh. Why don't we take a look and let's start off with a whole new class of card. It's the vehicle. So let's start off over here, BDM, with Smuggler's Copter. What's going on with this?
Well, this is the earliest breakout card in this new standard format. There was a Star City Open, 32 copies of this card in the top 8. That's a lot. That is as many as you can possibly cram in there. And this is a very powerful card. It fills the role of something like Jace Vryn's Prodigy, which lets you, you know, sort of dig through your deck. But it's also aggressive and hits very, very hard.
The more expensive a card gets, the more it needs to do for you. If we come along a little bit further, this is a big 5-mana spell, Sky Sovereign Consul flagship, and it crews for 3 rather than 1 for the Copter, so you have to get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of the most exciting cards. Everyone, when we were at PAX and we got to sort of start previewing these cards, this was the one everyone was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, this has a, you know, it's a continual source of, you know, basically flies overhead and just drops lightning bolts down on players and creatures.
It has that rumbling sound as it comes onto screen.
Battle Cruiser magic.
Absolutely.
And we have our Battle Cruiser.
Yeah, and then if we go just along, it's the Pain Train, it's Renegade Freighter. Now, probably not for Constructed, right?
Probably not. Who knows, though? This card has been such a breakout star in Limited that it is quite possible that you could see it. I have no idea. But, I mean, this is one of the cards you need to be able to deal with when you are playing Kaladesh Limited. It is very scary, very hit hard. I've lost multiple games early on where the only thing that hit me was a Renegade Freighter for maybe 5 turns if I had a couple jump blockers in the way.
So, those are 3 of the best vehicles. Here's another class of permanent you're going to see on the battlefield this weekend. Let's take a look at our suite of Planeswalkers. So we begin with Saheeli Rai. Now, I'm going to guess that Saheeli Rai doesn't have a home in Standard this weekend quite?
I think the question for this weekend, you know, we talked about those vehicles, I think is the tension between the Planeswalkers and the vehicles in general because they hit so hard, because they, you know, don't get swept, you know, you don't have that opportunity to sweep the board and kill all the creatures, you know, you're like, vehicles have a little bit of a haste element. So, you get to your next turn, you play a creature, you crew your vehicle, you smash in, and you take down Chandra, Torch of Defiance, or you attack Dovin Baan.
Yeah, now the thing with Dovin Baan is white-blue. This is the planeswalker you would expect to be in the control decks in the format. Our spies out around Kaladesh and out around Honolulu imply we're not going to see a lot of Dovin Baan because we're not going to see a lot of control.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if look, there's always somebody who finds a way to make it work. There's always someone who finds a way to make the control deck work, and if so, we could very well see Dovin Baan. We might see a different type of control deck that features Chandra, Torch of Defiance, or even something like Nissa Vital Force, maybe in like a black-green Emerge deck, or
right. And obviously, because Chandra and Nissa are just single color, there are more potential homes for them than Dovin Baan and Saheeli Rai. So that's some vehicles. This is some planeswalkers. What else are we going to take a look at? Let's see what we've got coming up next. Well, it's artifact time. BDM, how marvelous is the Marvel?
I mean, this has got to be a terrifying card to think about. You could, on turn 4, it's very conceivable that you could play this on turn 4 and have the 6 energy necessary to activate it and cast an Emrakul if it's lurking in the top 6 cards of your library.
I've got to say, at PAX, at the World Championship, it took about 3 seconds after this appeared on screen before you turned to me and said, that is going to be at the next Pro Tour in a big way.
Yeah, this is the type of card that I love. It just feels, it's exciting, and it could be random, or like, oh no, well I hit something. And there's also sometimes you have ways to scry and make sure you have something to hit. So very interested to see how people unknot that puzzle.
Now, if you want to do the math on Aetherflux Reservoir, 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36, 45, boom. Now you're well in the range of getting up to 50 life. This is a kind of storm deck, isn't it, essentially?
Absolutely. I think, you're going to see, you might see cards like Paradoxical Outcome, being paired with this. This has been like, this card has almost felt like a Magic community project. You've seen lots of groups of Magic players in public forums, like, how do we make this work? How are we dealing 50 to our opponent with this card? How are we getting there?
Right.
So it's going to be really interesting to see if someone has been able to make that work out on the floor this weekend.
And if you want to talk about a project, well, Panharmonicon, I have seen so many screenshots in the past week of people playing on Magic Online, people playing in real life drafts with 1 or 2 of these out, 2 Wispweaver Angel with infinite amounts of Thopters and one's running about. Panharmonicon is a card where almost like the rules of Magic get suspended. And I think it's the card that, to me, most feels like you're playing in Kaladesh, because it's like no other Magic format we've ever seen playing with that card.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris Botello, who you may remember from Grand Prix Portland, playing with the Demonic Pack Harmless Offering deck. And he said, I couldn't make it work. I couldn't figure out exactly how to get my Panharmonicon deck online. But what he was doing was playing Eyeless Watcher, Eldrazi Displacer, and Thought-Knot Seer to make infinite Scions, infinite mana, and then activate, blink his Thought-Knot Seer infinite times and make his opponent draw their deck and run out of cards.
Okie doke.
So that's the kind of things we like to do on Kaladesh.
All right. So who's going to do them? Because this is a format with a lot of challenges. Vehicles are new, energy is new, Fabricate's new. Maybe that is going to be the mechanic that we take away from this Pro Tour. So we've lined up 6 of the best deck builders on the planet to mark your card. What will the format look like? Well, these 6, between them, will give you a good idea. If they're only playing 2 decks between the 6 of them, well, maybe that's indicating that it's solved. But that's not what we think is going to happen. Let's show you our first 3. We're going to start in the United States with Sam Black, Oliver Chew, and Brian Brown Dewin.
Yeah, it was an arm wrestling match between Frank Karsten and Sam Black to get into this spot over here. People who are just going to, as soon as the deck lists come in, as soon as they come in, you are going to be going to Sam, you're going to be flipping to B. What is Sam playing? What did he build in this crazy format? I mean, you saw him in Atlanta
in
drafting Kaladesh and already doing crazy stuff with energy decks.
Right, a minister of inquiries, as you say here in America.
Yes, that is how we say it.
Yeah, it's not. But anyway, Minister of Inquiries was there, and he had no interest in attacking anyone ever. And there are so many builder rounds in draft. The limited rounds are going to feel like normal limited for a bunch of time, and suddenly it's going to feel like one deck's playing constructed.
Yeah, so you get a decoction module, and suddenly all the regular planes go out the window.
Handicraft, an animation module here and here and here and over there. It's amazing stuff. But in constructed, Sam's been one of the best deck builders around. The man next to him, though, Oliver 2, the single best constructed player in Magic in the past year.
And interestingly, one of the players he was competing with for the Constructed Master title last year was Sam Black, and the two of them worked together for this Pro Tour.
Oh, wow.
Oliver Chu got to work with the Team Channel Fireball team that we did our house visit with in Sydney.
Oh, fantastic.
And so, kind of a, again, only playing in his 5th Pro Tour, worth mentioning. This is someone who was, the Rookie of the Year, the Constructed Master, and going into his 5th Pro Tour, and he gets to play with Sam Black and Josh Utter-Layton and, all these guys. So pretty impressive for him.
And then we have BBD, Brian Brown doing your reigning world champion. And I don't want to overplay this, but I think he feels that winning Worlds is just the start for him because he was such an underdog, because he was a gold pro against 22 platinums. Marcio Carvalho, of course, was the other gold. I'm not sure he feels that the rest of the pros see him as a worthy world champion. And he is coming in going, you know what?
Did they watch him play? Because
I wonder sometimes.
Because if you watch him play, he is certainly a very worthy world champion
is.
and a great representative of the game.
But I do not think he is resting on laurels. I think his engine is well and truly started for this PT and this season ahead. For one thing, he wants to get back to the World Championship to defend that title. It is not automatic. So he has got a real fire lit under him.
Fortunately, he has a nice head start here with the pro points that come from the World Championship.
Indeed he does. So that's 3 of the finest North American deck builders. Why don't we take you around the world now? Spread our net a little wider, and let's see who we've got. Well,
How about another champion?
Yep, Lucas Blahon, of course, the champion from Pro Tour Eldritch Moon in Sydney. And now, pretty much, there's so many good Czech players right now around the scene. You've got Petr Sahurek, and we almost forget about someone, a giant of the modern last decade, of Martin User, for example. But Lucas Blahon is really, really good.
And someone who rattled off multiple finishes with very different standard decks from week to week throughout the end of the Pro Tour season last year.
He's like Seth Manfield in that regard, not wedded to a particular deck style, just this pinpoints for this week. Great, I top 8'd. Now I start again. This deck, pinpoint.
And I think Lucas would take umbrage at your description, because he's like, I'm not a great deck designer. I'm not a great deck tweaker. He's like, he really is he's like, I'm going to find the right deck. I'm going to find what works.
A meta game.
And I'm going to play it.
Okay.
So, but he's going to, he chooses his weapons very carefully.
So not that many people at home will know why we've chosen Pedro Carvalho.
You may not necessarily know the name Pedro Carvalho, but you know his handiwork very well. If you played Standard in the time from the last Pro Tour to this Pro Tour, you've certainly played against the Blue-Red Fevered Visions deck, and that is the handiwork of Pedro Carvalho. It's like just kind of a deck he was continuing to work on at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. He's really an aggro player. He couldn't figure out how to make a mono red deck work. And he was like, well, what if I add this Fevered Visions and make this totally different deck that's...
Thermo Alchemists and Thing in the Ice, all that stuff. He went 9-1 at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. And sometimes those great constructed performances get a little lost because we have draft first on Friday morning, draft again Saturday morning. So by Saturday lunchtime, you could be 6-5, and it turns out that you were 6-0 in constructed at that, 5-0 in constructed at that point. So very worth looking out to see what he's got in store. But if you were going to go for my life, unseen, whose deck would I just take off the shelf and go, I'll play this? It's probably this man, Shota Yasuoka of Japan.
And we were asking, will there be a control deck? in this format, if there is, he is one of the guys that will find it. He's a, renowned control player, but, he's also a big combo guy. He does like his crazy combo decks, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing something really off the wall.
A Marvel or a Reservoir.
Yeah, a Marvel, a Reservoir, something along those lines, some combination of modules. Who knows?
Right.
Could be anything.
It could be anything. It will be anything, because this is a Pro Tour unlike any other. It's going to be one of the biggest ever. Close to 500 players are going to be sleeving up their modules, their concoctions, their vehicles. It's going to be crazy. So invent your tomorrow. And that means being right here with us for the first draft. We've got so much great limited coverage. Luis Scott Vargas is with us all weekend long. Gabby Sparks, Tim Willoughby. We'll be here. It's going to be great fun.
And you'll see we didn't mention so much going on. We didn't even mention our 2 new Hall of Famers who are going to be inducted. Owen Turtenwald and Yuya Watanabe, first ballot Hall of Famers going into the Hall of Fame, a few minutes after we shoot this. And they'll be taking their lap around the room tomorrow. We'll probably see them at the draft tables.
We certainly will. And incidentally, if you like walking the plains, you're going to enjoy lunchtimes this weekend. That's all I'm saying. Until we meet for round 1 of Pro Tour Kaladesh from Honolulu. Rich, BDM, bye.